Everyone can hear me? Everyone can hear, thumbs up, people can hear me? Hello? You guys there?
Yes.
Okay. So, so the mirror, and it's good that we came back because it really is a very important point. The mirror is not, as Galia put it, a childish thing. Let's not forget what we went through. It is, we want to hold on to the bitterness because, and this is a very fundamental point that Rev Kook says, it's an amazing concept. We need to experience bitterness. It is through, because meaning the bitterness is the hard work, is that there are things that are difficult. It is facing adversity. We have the redemption from Egypt is only the beginning. What is it that is going to help us? At the end of the day, we have the redemption. We have the experience of being redeemed / being born. We have that experience of meeting of Hashem, of convening with Hashem in Egypt, and the eve of redemption. And then we have the all at once. Okay, now boom, you are born. All at once, go as you are. You're ready, you're not ready. There's no such thing. You can never fully be ready for birth. You can never fully be ready for redemption, from going from slavery to freedom. That happens all at once. Okay, but now what? Now there's freedom. What is going to, now you have to do something with it. Now Hashem is going to come and say, okay, here's 613 mitzvot. Here's in thousands of years of history. Here's your task in the world. Here's your destiny. You know what the method is you're going to use? Don't forget you were slaves in Egypt. You know what it's like to work hard. You know what it's like to have a yoke upon your neck. You know what it's like to be forced, or to force yourself. You know what it's like to work hard. Don't think that just because you've been saved, that means you can rest, relax, and everything's going to be given to you. No, that's just the beginning. You now have a responsibility. And the way in which you're going to be able to fulfill that is not just remember that you used to work, re-experience the bitterness, meaning reinstill within yourself the fact of working hard. If you look at the text again, why? Because well, I'm looking at the maror, right? The maror that we are eating. Why? Because the Egyptians embittered the lives of our ancestors in Egypt, as it is stated, and they made their lives bitter with hard service in mortar and in brick and in all manner of service in the field, and all their service. Look at this, all service, service, service. This is to instill within ourselves the fact that we are still servants. But instead of being servants to the Egyptians, we are servants of Hashem. We are servants of our freedom that we've been given, with all of these, with all of Jewish history being the yoke that is going to be upon our necks. But the slavery in Egypt, the 210 years of slavery in Egypt and the hardship that we went through, has prepared us to be able to successfully have the yoke of Hashem, and to have the difficulties and the challenges that come with the task that has been given to us throughout Jewish history. And that is why maror is last, because it is not just a nostalgic remembrance of, oh, I remember those, back in the day when we didn't have what to eat. Oh, and now's the good times. No, it's not about used to be bad, now's the good times. This maror is a completely different maror. This maror comes and says, we are now supposed to work hard because we've been trained. We know what it's like to work hard. So those same skills and that same emotional and psychological fortitude and conviction or what's what I'm looking for? The ability to overcome. That we want to hold on to that, because that emotional and psychological strength is what we need to give meaning to the Pesach and to give meaning to the matzah. And that's why it's Pesach, matzah, and then maror. And I think that all three of these things, we can understand now, I think, why Rabban Gamliel comes and says these three things are fundamental. They're the core. The ability to meet Hashem, to bring Hashem into our lives. Excuse me, some viruses. The ability to bring Hashem into our homes through the observance of the mitzvot of Pesach, and during, even when it's still a little bit dark, to be able to create this space of belief, of faith, of observance, upon which Hashem will come to protect us in all possible ways from a plague that is rampant outside, to then that all of a sudden, all at once, there's going to be, the salvation could come all at once. In this case, it did, without them being fully prepared for it. No matter how prepared you are, birth and life comes all at once. And then comes, but that means that now we have to start working. And for that, we need to not only remember the hardship, but hold on to the experience of hardship and slavery in order to utilize the what that gave us to and taste the bitterness. You need bitterness. Without being willing to taste bitterness and to work hard, you will not be able to give full meaning and expression and realization to the Pesach and to the matzah. That's it. That's what I came up with. Any thoughts, comments?
Why it's called celebration? Sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Sorry. Aaron?
Why it's called celebration of Pesach, not Independent Day, like remembering day? We not like Palestinians celebrate when it's 9/11, and every world is like say it's crazy. Tisha B'Av we not celebrate, like Valentine's Day we not celebrate because it's what happened to Jews with this day. Why it's called celebration of Pesach?
Why do we call this celebration?
Because God killed the so firstborn, and so big problem was in Egypt. We're happy with we have freedom, but why we celebrate this? We not call this Independent Day or celebrate freedom only. It's called celebration of Pesach.
Because it would be like saying when a baby is born, okay, when the baby is born and I don't know, the placenta, okay, is which until a moment ago was filled with life, okay, is then tossed aside. It's say, look at the price of this baby's life. Okay, part of the meaning we celebrate because we were born. The Jewish people were born. You know, one of the first things I always like to do at my Seder night as we sing Happy Birthday. We were born. The fact that Egypt tried to prevent our birth, so they were the casualty. They put themselves in harm's way when something a powerful force appears into the world, or is about to burst, and someone is standing in the way trying to hold it in. They don't get to complain. So yeah, we celebrate because we were born. We were born, and we are both a gift to ourselves, and we are God's gift to the world. As the Exodus of Egypt serves not only the beginning of our history as a nation, but if you look throughout history and you see the impact that the Exodus story has had throughout history on all, definitely Western culture, but not only. Look how often this story was referenced and to what degree it's a foundational story to the Western civilization for sure, Judeo-Christian cultures for sure, but also beyond that. Yes, other comments?
I just had one question. If you had it, did you connect any dots between that plague and our current one? I thought you saw a parallel, but I don't see it.
I'm always careful. I don't want to draw too direct of a line, because I like to think of not only to think, I like to look for eternal messages in the Torah. I think that I do think that suddenly when you're experiencing when you're going through events in your life, both as an individual and as a community, and you're experiencing something, suddenly when you look at the text, you might suddenly see something that wasn't there before because of what you are experiencing. Just like a child reading the story of the 12 tribes, sees it in one way, because he's looking at it through his eyes, through the world of his experiences, whereas an older sibling, might see it in a very different way. His focus will suddenly pick up on the rivalry between the brothers, and a parent will look at that story in a very different way. The story is always the same, but the experiences that each one of these individuals is going through and their life experience will cause them to pick up on different things. So on the one hand, I'm always very careful to try to keep the messages of the Torah universal, but I do think the concept of, I'd say like this, if last week we discussed the fact that throughout most of Jewish history, we didn't have a chance to celebrate Pesach as it is supposed to be, I'm now noticing, I read this, I saw this on Shabbat, I read this somewhere, that our Pesach this year will be very similar to the very first Pesach. The original Pesach, the idea of being alone with just the people that are already in your home, being just with them. Meaning, were there no single people living in Egypt? Were there no people who did not have a husband? Or were there no people that did not have a wife? Or who all their kids were killed by the Egyptians? Were there no people who were, and they had to be alone, or they were alone in their homes during the Pesach, and there was a plague outside, and they were told, do not go outside. If you go outside, you will be exposed to this plague. That's what they were told, literally. So they were sitting in there, and they were sitting celebrating during the plague. During the plague, the redemption did not happen yet. Mm-hmm. And they didn't know it was happening in 10 hours. They did not know it was happening in 10 hours. And they were sitting there creating a space of belief, of observance, of following the laws. They did not have all the minhagim that we have today. They had just the commandment of eating the Pesach, eating the lamb, eating the matzah, eating the maror. I always think to myself, not always, just now, what did they say? What were they saying that whole night? They weren't asking the Manishtana, right? They weren't telling the story of redemption the whole night. I'm not sure. Maybe they were talking about their hopes and dreams. Maybe they were looking out the window to see what's going on outside. I don't know exactly what. But the mere observance of what they did have, which was not that much, created a space of sanctity, created a space, a home upon which God visited, that created a safe space, a place of holiness, a place which was protected from the outside world. I think both physically from the plague, and I think also metaphorically from the plagues of the outside. Our Pesach this year will be extremely similar to the original Pesach. And I'm thinking to myself that even if you are not able to celebrate it as you usually do, as you would like, and some of the observances and some of the Haggadah might seem a little tasteless, since no one will be there to say the Manishtana the way you're accustomed to, and there'll be no one there to sing the songs with you and do whatever it is that make our usual seders rich The original Seder had none of it. And the original Seder was filled with, the outside world was filled with, there was a virus going around killing people on right and on left. And people were in their homes doing nothing but eating the lamb, eating matzah, and eating maror. That is it. And that created a space of sanctity.
Rabbi, it's also similar to celebration of Pesach of concentration camps. There's no future for the, there's no food and everything.
Right. So we discussed that last week. We talked about the Seder that was done during the night of the uprising, the day that the Warsaw Ghetto uprising began. But that's different, because I think that was an act. You know what? It's not completely different, but over here the similarities are so amazing. So to think to ourselves that whatever hardship we feel that our Seder is experiencing, it is the closest to the original Pesach. It isn't really, because we're free. But it's an amazing parallel to me. And that it happened before they knew for sure when they were leaving or when it will be over. And the fact that that they didn't know when it was going to be over, and then all at once it was over.
Blink of an eye.
Yeah, and then afterwards the maror, and then the work really begins. After that, if you were looking to draw parallels, I think if you were to ask the heads of all of our governments, they would agree with that. That right now it's just about managing crisis, and afterwards, whenever that may be, then the work really starts. Then, so again, but
even Rabbi, even as Torah Jews, it's like, what do we have when this is all over? How do we have to change our observance? How much do we appreciate our shuls and being in person with people and all those things we have to come back to?
Absolutely agree.
Very beautiful.
Agree.
Rabbi, can I ask you something?
Of course.
If we translate Yetziat Mitzrayim, it seems like the entire Mitzrayim went out.
You're right. Yetziat Mitzrayim literally should be translated the Exodus of Egypt, not Yetziat mi Mitzrayim, Exodus of Egypt. So I'll say that even Egypt was blessed by our Exodus, because the whole world was. This created something new in the world that all of humankind throughout all of history has been blessed by. But takes us very much off topic. But yes, you're from a linguistic perspective, you're right, and I think there's a lot there. Okay. Thank you everyone for bearing with me. I apologize for the maror, the hardships of this transmission, but the fact that we can come together again to learn is a tremendous gift. So thank you, and I wish us all a Pesach that is filled with a sense of sanctity, of creating a space where we can experience the presence of Hashem, regardless of what we're used to. And hopefully these last 2 weeks of coming together and learning together has given us, all of us, each one wherever they are in whatever situation they're going to be in, something to enlighten our Pesach. So with that,
absolutely. Alex and I posted something on the chat there that heartfelt, and certainly we appreciate, Rabbi, your sharing of your enthusiasm for the Torah in all the years, and certainly leading up to this unusual Pesach. And we should continue to learn together in the weeks to come following Pesach.
Amen.
Don't be too close to Litzman, please.
Okay, everyone have a Chag.
Be well. All the best to all Eretz Yisrael.
Okay, bye-bye.
Take care, Chag Sameach. Maybe will happen something miracle after.
Bezrat Hashem.
Amen.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.